I welcome you all to Primary 5 Integrated Science, Lesson 9 of the 5th week. We are still moving on with our topic of soil. And today, we are having a subtopic called soil conservation. Soil conservation. So when we talk about soil conservation here, we are meaning soil conservation is the maintenance of soil fertility. Soil conservation is the maintenance of soil fertility. We are looking at how can we maintain our soil fertile. How do you keep your soil fertile? So we are trying to mean soil conservation. Now, if we don't look after our soil properly, it may lead to soil exhaustion. Soil exhaustion. So if the soil conservation fails, that will lead you to soil exhaustion. Now, what is soil exhaustion? Friends, soil exhaustion is the loss of soil fertility. When the soil loses its fertility, we say the soil is exhausted. Now, what causes soil exhaustion? One, it is monocropping, growing one type of crop on the same piece of land year after year, season after season, what we call monocropping. Then also there's a leaching of nutrients. When the water, the soil erosion comes, for example, it rains heavily and water logs. These waters make these soil nutrients to sink down into the bottom layers of where the plants cannot reach. What we call leaching of the mineral salts. They leave the bottom layer when it is unfertile. Then also the soil erosion can also cause soil exhaustion as it takes away the topsoil which is fertile, which is containing humus, leaving the remaining soil without any nutrients. So that those are some of the causes of soil exhaustion. Then we have what causes leaching of mineral salts. Leaching is the sinking of mineral salts from the top layer to the bottom layers where plant roots cannot reach. Is the sinking of mineral salts from the top layer to the bottom layers where the plant roots cannot reach. If you have the soil and the water from the rain make these nutrients move from the top layer, they go deep down to the bottom layer, you know the soil profile. From the top layer, they go to the bottom layer or sub layer, where these plant roots cannot access them. We say the soil has leached. So the top layer is now infertile, so it's exhausted. There we have those harmful materials in the soil that can make the soil exhausted. One, we have polythene. The polythene bags, Uvera. That's why the task of Tonde. Get rid of Uveras. Here we see the effect of Uveras if we are to scatter them in the environment. Then we have other materials like metal scraps. They're also very dangerous in our soil. The scraps. Then we have broken glasses. Those glasses are not good in our soil. We have chemicals. We have oil and debris. So these materials affect the soil in the way that one of the effects of these harmful materials is that they lead to soil pollution, e.g. oil and chemicals. These chemicals, when they enter our soil, they kill the living organisms which are in this soil. And these living organisms are very important in the way that they help to aerate the soil. But if they are killed, automatically the soil will be polluted. Then polythene bags prevent water from sinking into the soil. So instead of water after raining, want this water to penetrate the soil. Since they have that surface of the cavera, they remain on top of the cavera. So the soil remains without water. Are you together? So the polythenes are not good in the soil. Talk of these glasses, broken glasses, they also prevent the penetration of water into the soil. Then we have what we call soil fertility. With the soil fertility, is the ability of the soil to support plant growth. As long as the soil is able to support plant growth, we say that soil is fertile. But if the soil cannot support that plant growth, it means the soil is infertile. So how can we improve on soil fertility? Or how can we maintain the fertility of the soil? One is by mulching. The other time we looked about mulching, covering the top layer of the soil with the dry plant materials. Then these mulches, right after mulching the garden, the mulches rot and form humus, making the soil fertile. Then we can also add fertilizers in the soil. Other fertilizers, they can be artificial fertilizers or natural fertilizers. We are looking at that when we reach on fertilizers. Bush fallowing. With the bush fallowing is leaving the land to rest for a certain time, such that it regains its fertility. For example, I have been cultivating in a certain piece of land for a long time, like 5 years without resting. So this time we decide, let me abandon this land to rest at least for a full year or 2 years before I go back. By the time you go back, you find that the vegetation has grown and has covered the whole area. The leaves from this vegetation that drops decompose and form humus, making the soil fertile. So bush fallowing is also very important in improving soil fertility. Then we have by practicing crop rotation. We looked at crop rotation, where you grow different crops on the same piece of land seasonally. So you ensure that during your crop rotation, mix these crops with legumes, such that if season 1 you have grown root crops, season 2 you are going to grow legumes, season 3 you can grow fruit crops, like that, in the way that you maintain the fertility of the soil. Then by intercropping legumes with the other crops. I told that intercropping means growing 2 or more crops in the same piece of land in the same season. However, if you are growing, ensure that when you are intercropping, involve legumes in these crops. We know that legumes have nitrogen fixing bacteria in their nodules that help to fix nitrogen into the soil, making the soil fertile. Good. Then we have what to look at. We want to look at the fertilizers. We said one of the ways of improving soil fertility is by adding fertilizers. So we have said there are 2 types of fertilizers in our environment. So we have what we call natural fertilizers and what we call artificial fertilizers. Are you together? We have 2 types of fertilizers: natural fertilizers and artificial fertilizers. However, natural fertilizers are also called organic manure. Organic manure. So natural fertilizers are also called the organic manure. Now, why do we call them organic manure or organic fertilizers? Is that these are called organic fertilizers because they are made from plants and animal remains. This manure or fertilizers which are natural are made from plants and animal remains. These remains can decompose. That's why we are calling them organic. They can decompose to form that manure. So these are some of the examples of natural fertilizers. Examples of natural fertilizers. 1, we have what we call farmyard manure. Farmyard manure. Farmyard manure is the manure we get from animal droppings and urine. Animal droppings and urine. When we talk about animal droppings, we look at chicken droppings, we look at animal dung, the cow dung, or the goat's dung, and so on. Then we collect them, we mix with urine, we put them in a pit, we allow them to rot. After rotting, you remove when they are ready and apply it to the garden. Then we have what we call compost manure. With the compost manure is the type of manure we get from the household refuse, like leftover food. You mix with some rubbish, put it in a heap, make a heap in a pit. The portion you leave on, the matoke you leave on, the banana peelings, put there your banana leaves used to make the matoke. Then put them in a pit, put there some soil, allow them to rot. After a certain time, remove them when they have rotten and take them to the garden as composting manure. Then we have another type of natural manure called green manure. With the green manure, Here we plow land, we cover this grass or plants with the soil. In that those ones which are covered with soil, they rot and form humus. So during plowing, for example, when the animals are plowing or tractors, they make soil to cover those grass, such that those grass can ferment and rot. At the end, they form humus. In most cases, we use these leguminous crops or plants that have nutrients. When they are about to begin flowering, at the other flowering stage, then we bring the plow, we plow them and we cover them with the soil to ensure that the nutrients which we are going to put in the fruits remain in the soil. Then we have organic mulches. With organic mulches, here we use only this dry plant materials, what we call mulches. So after covering the soil, these mulches rot and form humus, hence making the soil fertile. I know we talked about mulching. We know the materials we use for mulching. We talked about wood shavings. We talked about dry leaves and dry grass. We talked about sawdust, coffee husks, maize cob, crushed maize cobs, and so on. We can use them to mulch the garden. At the end, those materials will rot and form humus, making the soil fertile. Then we talked about other pointers of mulching. Apart from improving on soil fertility, we can also talk about that it controls soil erosion. Mulching controls soil erosion, also maintains soil moisture or water content into the soil. Members, still under natural fertilizers, I encourage you to look at the advantages and disadvantages of natural fertilizers. There are very many advantages that natural fertilizers have, and also disadvantages that natural fertilizers are having. For example, look at the advantages that these fertilizers are having. One is that they are easy to apply in the garden. They don't need technical